My dearest friends, if you feel stuck repeating the same mistakes, breaking promises to yourself, and living below your true potential, this video will show you how to end that inner struggle and step into a stronger version of yourself by the end. Deep inside, you already know there is a weak version of you that chooses comfort over growth, excuses over effort, and fear over courage. Every time you delay your goals, that version grows stronger and quietly steals your confidence, discipline, and self-respect. If you don't confront it now, years can pass and you'll still be standing in the same place, wondering why nothing changed. But here is the truth: most people never hear. Weakness doesn't disappear on its own. It must be consciously replaced. There is a mindset shift that separates those who transform their lives from those who only wish to. Stay with me, because in this video, I'll share 7 powerful lessons that will help you end the weak patterns holding you back and awaken the strongest version of yourself. The first key point is this uncomfortable truth: the weak version of you survives by pretending it is protecting you. It speaks softly, using reasonable words, logical tones, and familiar excuses. It tells you that pushing harder is dangerous, that aiming higher is risky, that staying where you are is practical. It wraps fear in the language of wisdom, and because it sounds calm, you trust it. But understand this clearly: this voice is not trying to save your future, it is trying to preserve your comfort. And comfort, when it becomes a lifestyle, slowly kills ambition without ever raising an alarm. The weak version of you does not attack you openly. It never says, "Destroy your life." It says, "You've done enough for today." It convinces you that rest is always deserved, even when nothing meaningful was done. It trains you to reward effort you never fully gave. Over time, this creates a dangerous illusion. You feel tired without being fulfilled, busy without being effective, exhausted without being proud. This is how people get stuck for years, while telling themselves they are just being patient. The truth is harsher. They are being careful, and careful has quietly become their cage. Safety feels attractive because it removes immediate pain. It promises peace. It promises predictability. It promises that you won't fail publicly or look foolish. But what it never tells you is the long-term cost. Safety slowly shrinks your tolerance for challenge. Things that once felt easy begin to feel heavy. Small obstacles start to feel overwhelming. You begin to negotiate with tasks instead of attacking them. And one day, you realize that your world has become very small, not because life limited you, but because you agreed to stop expanding. The weak version also loves routines that require no courage. Same habits, same patterns, same outcomes. It prefers familiar disappointment over unfamiliar effort. At least familiar disappointment does not demand change. It lets you complain while staying the same. It gives you stories to tell about how life is unfair, how circumstances are difficult, how timing is wrong. But deep down, you know the real pain is not what you lack. The real pain is knowing that you did not fully try, that you settled before life forced you to, that you lowered your standards without admitting it. When you choose safety again and again, something subtle happens to your self-respect. You may not notice it immediately, but it erodes quietly. You stop trusting your own promises. You stop believing your own words. Each time you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," and don't, a small part of your confidence disappears. And confidence does not vanish in one dramatic moment. It fades through repeated self-betrayal. This is why people who live safely often feel strangely empty. They are not broken. They are disconnected from the version of themselves they know they could have been. The most dangerous thing about safety is that it feels responsible. Society often rewards it. People praise you for being realistic, for not taking risks, for not rocking the boat. But growth has never cared about approval. Growth demands friction. It demands tension. It demands that you step into situations where success is not guaranteed. The weak version hates this because uncertainty exposes effort. If you try and fail, there is nowhere to hide, so it keeps you in places where failure is slow, silent, and socially acceptable. If you are honest, you already know where you have been choosing safety over growth. It shows up in the conversations you avoid, the goals you downsize, the habits you refuse to change. It shows up when you say you want more, but live in a way that protects less. The weak version thrives on delay. It believes there will always be more time, more energy, more chances later. But life does not move in circles. It moves forward. And every time you choose comfort over challenge, you are not standing still. You are falling behind quietly. There comes a moment when you must stop asking what feels safe and start asking what feels necessary. Necessary growth is rarely comfortable. Necessary change often feels heavy at first. But it brings something safety never can: momentum. When you do hard things consistently, you expand. Your confidence grows not from thinking, but from proof. You begin to trust yourself again. The weak version loses power not through motivation, but through action. And the moment you stop protecting your comfort more than your future, something inside you shifts. The second key point is this harsh reality: being busy has become the most respectable form of self-deception. It looks productive on the outside, sounds impressive in conversation, and feels exhausting enough to justify your lack of results. You move all day, think all night, and still wonder why nothing meaningful changes. Business gives you motion without direction. It fills your schedule but starves your progress. And because you feel tired at the end of the day, you assume you earned rest. But exhaustion does not equal effectiveness. You can run in circles for years and still end up exactly where you started. The weak version of you loves business because it hides fear. When you are always occupied, you never have to face the one question that matters: is what I'm doing actually moving my life forward? Instead, you answer emails, organize plans, watch videos, take notes, and tell yourself you are preparing. Preparation feels safe. Action feels exposed. Preparation lets you delay judgment. Action invites it. So you stay busy learning about the climb instead of actually climbing. And over time, you confuse activity with achievement, mistaking effort-looking behavior for real growth. Business also feeds the ego in subtle ways. It allows you to say, "I'm trying," without having to prove anything. It lets you complain about time while avoiding responsibility for choices. You tell yourself that if life slowed down, you would finally succeed. But the truth is uncomfortable. If your priorities were clear, your schedule would reveal it. You always find time for what you truly value. Everything else gets crowded out. So when progress is missing, it is not because you are too busy. It is because your energy is scattered. The most dangerous form of business is reactive living. You wake up and immediately respond to the world. Notifications decide your focus. Other people's demands shape your day. Urgent things steal time from important things. By night, you feel drained yet strangely unfulfilled. Nothing meaningful was built, only maintained. This kind of business trains your mind to chase noise instead of purpose. It conditions you to respond instead of create. And slowly, you forget what it feels like to move with intention. Real progress is often quiet and uncomfortable. It usually involves doing one hard thing consistently while ignoring many attractive distractions. But that kind of focus feels boring to the weak version of you. It wants variety, it wants stimulation, it wants constant motion, so it never has to sit with discomfort or doubt. So it jumps from task to task, goal to goal, idea to idea, never staying long enough for depth to turn into mastery. This is why many people work hard but remain replaceable. They never go deep enough to become dangerous. There is also a hidden addiction in business, the feeling of being needed. When you are always occupied, you feel important, you feel relevant, you feel valued. But importance without impact is a trap. Being needed by many small tasks can steal you away from the one task that would change everything. Progress demands subtraction. It demands saying no to good things so you can say yes to the right thing. And the weak version resists this because saying no feels like loss, even when what you gain is freedom. If you stripped your day down to outcomes instead of hours, the truth would become clear very quickly. What did you actually move forward today? What did you create that did not exist before? What problem did you solve that truly mattered? These questions are uncomfortable, which is why business avoids them. But growth lives on the other side of discomfort. The moment you stop measuring your days by how full they feel and start measuring them by what actually changes, the illusion breaks. And once the illusion breaks, excuses lose their power. The third key point is this deep misunderstanding that holds people back. Discipline is not cruelty toward yourself, it is clarity. The weak version of you treats discipline like a punishment handed down by life, something harsh meant only for extreme people. It believes discipline means losing freedom, joy, or peace. But in reality, discipline is the highest form of self-respect. It is the decision to live by intention instead of impulse. When you choose discipline, you are not restricting your life, you are directing it. The weak version resists discipline because it demands consistency without immediate reward. There is no applause when you wake up early, no praise when you stay focused, no recognition when you say no to distractions. Discipline asks you to do what matters long before results show up, and that delay is uncomfortable. The mind wants instant feedback, it wants proof right away. Discipline says, trust the process. And the weak version struggles with trust because it lives in the present moment, not the future it claims to want. Discipline also exposes self-honesty. When you commit to a standard and fail to meet it, there is no one else to blame. This is why many people avoid setting rules for themselves. Rules create accountability, and accountability removes excuses. It is easier to say life is unfair than to admit you did not show up with full effort. Discipline removes the hiding place. It forces you to face the gap between who you say you want to be and how you actually live. There is a quiet power that comes from keeping small promises to yourself. It may seem insignificant at first, waking up on time, finishing what you start, doing the hard thing when no one is watching. But each act sends a message to your mind. I can be trusted. Confidence is not built through positive thinking. It is built through proof. And discipline is how you produce that proof daily. Over time, this trust compounds, turning doubt into certainty and hesitation into calm strength. The weak version of you chases motivation, waiting for the right mood to act. Discipline does not wait. It moves regardless of mood. It understands that emotions are temporary and unreliable. Some days you will feel strong. Other days you will feel heavy. Discipline does not argue with feelings. It simply acts. This is why disciplined people appear calm under pressure. They are not more gifted. They are more practiced at doing what must be done, even when it feels uncomfortable. Discipline also protects your energy. Without it, your life becomes reactive. You eat what you crave, sleep when you collapse, work when forced, and rest when exhausted. Discipline creates structure, and structure creates freedom. When you decide in advance how you will live, you stop negotiating with yourself every day. Fewer decisions mean less mental fatigue. This is why disciplined lives often feel simpler and lighter, not stricter. The chaos disappears when clear boundaries are in place. At its core, discipline is an act of belief in your future self. Every disciplined action says, the person I am becoming matters more than the comfort I want right now. This is why discipline feels hard at first. It requires you to care about a future you have not met yet. But the more you practice it, the more that future feels real. And when that happens, discipline stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity. The fourth key point is this truth most people quietly surrender to without realizing it. They allow their emotions to sit in the driver's seat of their life. They wake up and ask themselves how they feel, and then let that answer decide how they act. If they feel confident, they move forward. If they feel tired, they slow down. If they feel discouraged, they stop. Over time, feelings become commands, and when emotions give the orders, consistency disappears. You don't lose progress in one dramatic failure. You lose it in small emotional decisions that feel justified in the moment. The weak version of you trusts emotions too much because emotions feel honest. They feel real. They feel personal. But emotions are not truth, they are reactions. They are responses to comfort, fear, stress, and memory. They change with sleep, food, weather, and mood. Building a life on something that unstable is like building a house on moving sand. Strong people understand this early. Emotions are signals, not instructions. You can acknowledge them without obeying them. You can feel afraid and still move. You can feel tired and still show up. You can feel unsure and still act with discipline. Waiting to feel ready is one of the most expensive habits a person can develop. Readiness is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. If you only act when confidence appears, you will live a very small life. Confidence is usually the result of action, not the cause of it. Most people get this backward. They think courage comes first and action follows. In reality, action creates courage. You move while scared and strength grows. You act while unsure and clarity appears. Emotions catch up after commitment, not before. The weak version of you also uses emotions as permission slips. I'm not in the right headspace. Or today is not my day. I just don't feel like myself. These statements sound harmless, even self-aware. But repeated often enough, they become escape routes. They allow you to step away from responsibility without admitting fear. The danger is not feeling these emotions. The danger is letting them decide your standards. When your standards drop every time your mood shifts, progress becomes accidental instead of intentional. There is a quiet maturity in doing the work without drama. No emotional negotiation, no internal debate, just action aligned with values. This is what emotional discipline looks like. You don't suppress emotions, but you don't worship them either. You acknowledge the feeling and still keep your word. This creates a deep inner stability. Life may be chaotic on the outside, but inside there is order, and that order comes from choosing principles over impulses. Emotions also have a way of exaggerating the moment. A bad hour feels like a bad day. A bad day feels like a bad life. The weak version reacts to these exaggerations as if they are permanent truths. Strong people zoom out. They understand that emotions are temporary visitors. They pass through if you don't build a house for them. When you learn not to make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings, your life stops swinging wildly between extremes. When emotions stop being your boss, something powerful happens. You regain authority over your actions. You no longer ask, "What do I feel like doing today?" You ask, "What kind of person do I choose to be today?" That shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Your days become more consistent. Your self-trust grows. Your identity strengthens. You stop living at the mercy of moods and start living by design. The fifth key point is this uncomfortable reality. Pain is not what destroys people, avoiding pain does. Most people spend their lives running from discomfort, believing that a good life is one with minimal struggle. They build routines designed to protect them from stress, rejection, effort, and uncertainty. On the surface, this looks like self-care. Deep down, it is self-sabotage. Because growth has always been painful, and avoiding pain means avoiding growth. When you remove challenge from your life, you don't create peace. You create stagnation. The weak version of you treats pain like a warning sign, as if discomfort means something is wrong. The moment things feel heavy, awkward, or difficult, it assumes it is time to stop, slow down, or step back. But pain is often a signal that something is changing. Muscles ache when they grow, minds strain when they learn, character stretches when it is tested. Pain is not proof of failure, it is proof of engagement. The real danger is not feeling pain, but never feeling it at all. Avoiding pain feels smart in the short term because it gives immediate relief. You escape the hard conversation. You delay the difficult decision. You choose distraction over discipline. And for a moment, the tension disappears. But what you avoided doesn't vanish, it waits. It grows heavier with time. Problems ignored gain interest. Fear unchallenged becomes stronger. And one day, what could have been faced with courage now requires crisis. This is how small discomfort turns into lifelong regret. The weak version also believes pain means weakness. It sees struggle as a personal flaw instead of a natural part of becoming stronger. So it hides pain, numbs it, or runs from it. But strong people understand something different. Pain is information. It shows you where you are underdeveloped. It reveals where your habits are weak, where your mindset is fragile, where your standards are low. If you listen instead of escape, pain becomes a teacher. If you run, it becomes a prison. There is a specific kind of pain that shapes powerful people. The pain of discipline, honesty, and effort. This pain does not damage you, it refines you. Waking up when you want to sleep hurts. Saying no when you want comfort hurts. Staying consistent when progress feels slow hurts. But this pain builds pride instead of shame. It leaves you tired but fulfilled. It creates a quiet confidence that cannot be taken away because it was earned, not imagined. The most dangerous pain is the pain of regret because it arrives too late to be corrected easily. It sounds like, I should have tried, I knew better, I had time. This pain is heavy because it carries the weight of missed chances. And the tragedy is that people often choose this pain unknowingly, thinking they are avoiding discomfort. In reality, they are just postponing it. Pain avoided today comes back tomorrow with more force and less mercy. Strong people do not seek pain, but they do not fear it. They walk toward necessary discomfort with intention. They understand that short-term pain is the price of long-term freedom. They choose the pain of effort over the pain of explanation. They choose the pain of growth over the pain of stagnation. And over time, their relationship with pain changes. It stops being something to escape and becomes something to respect. When you stop treating pain like an enemy, you reclaim your power. You no longer ask, how do I avoid discomfort? You ask, which discomfort leads me forward? That question changes everything. Because the right pain strengthens you, sharpens you, and prepares you for a life that comfort never could. The sixth key point is this silent habit that keeps potential trapped, waiting for permission to become more. Many people do not realize they are doing it. They say they are being patient, respectful, or realistic. But beneath those words is hesitation. They are waiting for approval, validation, or a green signal from someone else before they step into their strength. They wait for family to agree, for friends to understand, for society to nod, and while they wait, time keeps moving. Opportunities do not pause. Life does not ask if you are ready. The weak version of you believes that confidence should come from outside. It wants reassurance that the decision is right, that the path is safe, that failure will be forgiven. So it asks opinions instead of listening to conviction. It looks for examples instead of becoming one. But the truth is uncomfortable. People who change their lives rarely have unanimous support at the beginning. Approval often comes after results, not before effort. If you wait to be understood before you move, you may never move at all. There is a deep fear behind the need for permission, the fear of being judged for trying, being judged for failing, being judged for changing. The weak version would rather stay acceptable than become exceptional. It would rather fit in than stand out, and society quietly rewards this. It praises humility when it is really hesitation. It calls boldness arrogance and risk irresponsibility. But growth has never followed social comfort. It has always followed inner alignment. Waiting for permission also shows up as over-explaining. You justify your goals. You soften your dreams. You add backup plans to protect other people's opinions. This slowly trains your mind to doubt itself. Every explanation you give weakens your certainty. Strong people do not feel the need to convince everyone. They move first. Explain later or not at all, not because they are careless, but because they are clear. The moment you decide to live intentionally, some people will feel uncomfortable. Your discipline will challenge their excuses. Your courage will expose their fear. Your growth will remind them of what they avoided. This is why not everyone will clap for your progress. The weak version tries to avoid this discomfort by shrinking. But shrinking does not protect relationships. It slowly poisons them with resentment. When you live below your potential, you eventually blame the people you tried to please. Greatness often begins in loneliness, not because you are better than others, but because your path is different. The courage to walk alone for a season is the price of becoming someone new. When you stop waiting for permission, you stop outsourcing your identity. You stop living someone else's expectations. You start acting from values instead of fear, and that shift is quiet but powerful. The strongest decision you will ever make is choosing yourself without needing applause, acting without consensus, believing without proof, moving without permission. This does not make you selfish, it makes you responsible. Because at the end of your life, you will not answer to the crowd. You will answer to the mirror. The seventh key point is this hard truth most people refuse to face. Excuses are not harmless explanations. They are slow decisions to abandon your future. Every excuse sounds reasonable on its own. It sounds logical, even mature. But excuses do not appear once, they repeat. And repetition turns them into identity. You don't just make excuses anymore. You become someone who lives inside them. Dreams don't die from one failure. They die from too many justified delays. The weak version of you is incredibly creative with excuses. It can turn lack of time into a story, lack of money into a shield, lack of support into a reason to stop. And the most dangerous part is that these excuses often contain a small piece of truth. Life is busy, resources are limited, people may not help. But excuses are not built on lies, they are built on exaggeration. They take a real obstacle and use it as a permanent conclusion instead of a temporary challenge. Excuses feel comforting because they protect your self-image. They allow you to believe that you could succeed if only conditions were better. This keeps your ego safe while your potential stays unused. You don't have to risk failure if you never fully commit. You don't have to confront your limits if you blame circumstances. But deep down, this comfort is heavy. It creates an inner tension, the gap between what you claim you want and what you are willing to do. That gap becomes exhausting to carry. Over time, excuses start to cost more than effort ever would. They cost confidence because every excuse is a broken promise to yourself. They cost clarity because the more you justify inaction, the harder it becomes to see the truth. They cost momentum because progress requires movement, not explanations. And the biggest cost is time. Time spent explaining why you can't is time stolen from discovering how you could. The weak version also uses excuses as protection from responsibility. Responsibility is heavy because it means your life is in your hands. Excuses transfer that weight to the world, to people, to time in. But the price of avoiding responsibility is powerlessness. If nothing is your fault, then nothing is in your control. Strong people accept responsibility not because it feels good, but because it gives them leverage. Responsibility means you can change something. There is a moment of clarity that separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. The moment you stop asking, "Why is this hard?" and start asking, "What is required?" that shift kills excuses instantly. Because requirements don't care about feelings. They don't care about mood. They don't care about background. They simply ask for effort, honesty, and consistency. When you focus on requirements, excuses sound weak, even embarrassing. The strongest people are not those with fewer problems, but those with fewer excuses. They simplify their thinking. They stop negotiating with discomfort. They stop waiting for perfect conditions. They choose progress over pride. And every time they act without an excuse, they reinforce a powerful belief. I can be trusted. That belief becomes fuel. It creates momentum. It turns intention into action and action into identity. One day, you will look back at this moment and realize it was not just a speech you heard. It was a line you crossed. A line between who you were and who you refused to remain. Change does not arrive with noise or drama. It arrives the day you stop negotiating with your weaker self and start honoring your stronger one. Not with words, but with choices. You don't rise because life becomes easier. You rise because you become stronger. Strong enough to act without motivation. Strong enough to move without approval. Strong enough to choose discipline over comfort and responsibility over excuses. The weak version of you does not disappear in one day, but it loses power every time you show up when it tells you not to. Remember this: your future is not built in moments of confidence, it is built in moments of decision. Small decisions, quiet decisions, daily decisions. Each one shaping the person you are becoming. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. You don't need to feel ready. You need to be willing. Kill the weak version of yourself not with hate, but with action. Replace comfort with courage. Replace excuses with effort. Replace waiting with movement. And one day, you will wake up and realize the voice that once held you back is gone. In its place stands someone disciplined, grounded, and unshakable, someone you can finally respect.